everybody to the official Bill Superfoot Wallace YouTube channel. My name is Jim Ginter, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Mr. Bill Superfoot Wallace. The name of this episode is The Accident That Created a Legend, Bill Wallace. So you're going to hear it from Bill himself. Bill, tell us about that accident.
Thank you, everybody, for hopping on YouTube with me. Let me tell you a little story. We're all given choices in our life. And as a freshman in high school, I weighed 89 pounds. If I turned sideways and stuck out my tongue, I looked just like a zipper. But anyway, so I'm walking down the hallway of school towards the end of class, towards the end of the school day, and I see these guys rolling all over the place in this room. So I walk in, I said, what is this all about? And the coach, a guy named Mr. Clausen, says, this is the wrestling class. And I said, wow, they have guys my size doing it. He says, of course. How much do you weigh? And I says, not very much. So I went in there, put my sweats on, put my shorts on, and started wrestling. Then I went to high school, my sophomore, junior, senior, where my coach was Norm Willie, who I revered still to this day. But anyway, I became fairly proficient in wrestling. And then my friend says, hey, Bill, let's join the Air Force. And I said, why? He says, because I want to fly airplanes. I said, okay, we'll do that. Well, we didn't know at that time that you had to be an officer to fly airplanes. The recruiter just said, oh, yeah, you'll be able to fly airplanes. Yeah. Punch him right in the mouth. So I get to my permanent station, Wordsmith Air Force Base, Michigan. And it's late December. And I'm here, bored out of my mind. I got to do something. So I walk across to the men's gym, the main gym. And I walk up to the head guy and I said, excuse me, do they have a wrestling team here? He said, well, I don't know what they're doing, but a bunch of guys are rolling around in the back room. I said, okay. So I walk in the back room. These guys are rolling all over the place with little white suits on. Well, being a brand new airman, I said, excuse me. And everybody looks up. I said, excuse me, but do we have a wrestling team here? And the guy with a black belt stands up and says, you a wrestler? And I said, yes, sir. He says, oh, I'll wrestle you. So he takes his little white coat off. We wrestle a little bit. I take him down a couple times. I put him on his back a couple times. He said, that's pretty good. I said, well, thank you, sir. Then he says, now put this little white coat on. We're going to wrestle again. And I said, no problem. So I put his little white coat on. Boom. Yeah, boom. I bounced off the walls. I bounced off the floor. I bounced off the ceiling. I could have sworn I bounced off the ceiling 5 or 6 times. And I said, what is this? He says, it's called Judo. And I went, wow, this looks like a lot of fun. So I started playing Judo. And in 63, 64, 65, I became fairly proficient. So all of a sudden I get stationed in Okinawa, Kadena Air Base, Okinawa. At that time, I weighed probably 135 pounds, maybe maximum 235 pounds. But I'm working out with a guy about 187, 190. I come in for a throw called Seotoshi, which is one of my favorite throws. He steps over to counter me. So I step through his leg to throw a throw called Ouchigari, which is a tripping type throw. He just collapsed and fell on my right knee, tore my medial collateral ligament, and I'm on my back screaming and hollering. And they call the medics, they call the doctors, they come and get me, they take me to the hospital. And they said, well, we want to go in there and look at it. I says, what do you mean you want to go in there and look at it? He says, well, now understand, this is 1960, 64, 65. And I'm now back in 64, 65, there was no such thing as arthroscopic surgery. It was called exploratory. So I'm going, uh-oh. So what happens if you go in there and there's nothing you can do? Well, we'll just sew you back up and you try to heal the best you can. And I said, what if you go in there and you can't find anything wrong? Well, we'll sew you back up and you'll try to heal. What are the chances? He said 50-50. And I said, I'll try the last one just to let it heal. So he puts it in the cast all the way from my crotch down to my ankle. So I'm hobbling around on crutches. And then a friend in the barracks says, hey, there's a karate school downtown. Let's go check it out. Again, we're given choices, remember? So I said, okay. So we go down to the karate school. We sit down on the benches, you might say. And this Japanese Okinawan kid comes up in a black belt and says, oh, you want to do karate? What? He says, you want to do karate? I look at my friend. He says, do you want to do karate? I said, well, I like you, but I have a bad knee. He says, no problem. You stand up. So I stand up and he says, I teach you Yokageri. What's Yokageri? He says, side kick. It's a side kick. So he demonstrated the side kick to me. I did it 3 or 4 times. Now, again, I'm in a cast with crutches. So I'm throwing the side kick maybe knee height, maybe mid thigh level. About 25,000 of those things. And I say, hey, I kind of like this. This is kind of fun because it's giving me a good workout and at least I'm moving. So I come back the next week and he says, oh, you're back. Now we do Mawashigeri. I just got Yokageri now. What's a Mawashigeri? Roundhouse kicker. Roundhouse kicker. Okay, so he teaches me the roundhouse kick and I start throwing because I can't throw with the rear leg. At that time, all kicks, most kicks were from the rear leg because of the power aspect of it, because of the movement. But I didn't have a rear leg. So I end up throwing it with the front leg roundhouse kick. Mawashigeri. So I did that about 25,000 times. Then when I get back to the barracks, I'd do it another 15 or 20,000 times during the course of the week. A couple months go by, a month and a half, 2 months go by, and I get the leg out of the cast. They gave me a brace to put on it, so it's braced really good. I go back to the school. Then one day he says, okay, we do kumite. Okay, what's kumite? He says, we're going to fight. Excuse me. For all these years, all these months, you've been saying this gakuzuki, seikenzuki, oizuki with these 2 knuckles can kill somebody. The Yokageri can crush ribs. Front kick can screw you up really, really good. And now you say we're going to do that to each other? Oh, but we work for something called Kimi Focusing. Okay, sure. So we practice sparring around, and I'm sparring with a higher ranked black belts, and I throw a side kick. And he backs out of the way, and I brought my heel, and I caught him with a heel in the chest, knock him down. He gets up, which is not done in the traditional Okinawan system, because you throw, but you don't hit. So I'm standing here in the race stance. And he says, what'd you do? And I went, oh, God, here he goes. I'm going to die. And he says, what'd you do? And I said, well, I threw Yokageri to try to hit you. You get out of the way. So I brought my heel around to basically keep you from killing me. He says, Uramawashigeri. Uramawashigeri. What's that Uramawashigeri? Hook and kick. It's a hook and kick. So now if you think about it, those are my 3 kicks. Side kick, roundhouse kick, and now the hook kick. So I had those 3 kicks down. Now, because I started there late, I left there in June of '66 as a brown belt. I didn't make black belt in Okinawa. So I go back to the United States thinking my karate career is over too, my judo career is done because my knee's all screwed up. So I get back to Norton Air Force Base in San Bernardino, California. And a friend in the barracks said, hey, you do martial arts, right? I said, yeah. He says, well, do you know there's a karate school downtown? I went, really? Let's go, because I had my car. So we drive downtown. So I go in there to introduce myself. My instructors became Mickey Janek and George Torbett. 7. Guess what? My tour of service is over in the United States Air Force. So I'm going to go home. I go back to Lafayette, Indiana, where I'm from, and thinking my career's over. But my father already set up for me to go to Ball State University. So what happens is I go back and I'm over in the men's gym, just doing some katas, some form techniques, kicking, flexibility, exercises. This kid comes up to me, but he says, hey, you train martial arts? I said, yeah. He says, a bunch of us are getting together in Indianapolis this weekend, and we're going to have a little workout together. Would you like to come? I said, I would love to. Give me the address. That Saturday morning, I drive down to Indianapolis, Indiana, 60 miles. There I meet Glenn Keeney, Robert Bowles, Parker Shelton, everybody in the Midwest that was anything back then. They were all there working out. Glenn and I hit it off right off the bat, became great friends. His school was 18 miles from Ball State. So every day I would go over there after wrestling practice. I'd go there and work out, spar, and had a blast spar. Probably Glenn Keeney probably taught me more about sparring than anybody of all my instructors, because we sparred every day. Not 2 or 3 minutes, not 5 or 15 minutes, but probably an hour and a half, 2 hours every day. At tournaments, we would go, we never had it, wasn't a tournament yet, but all of a sudden in February, we're having a blast. Then he says, hey, the end of February, there's a tournament in Lexington, Kentucky, and you want to go to the tournament? I said, yeah, I'd love to. By the way, I forgot to tell you, just before I got out of the service, I got promoted to Shodan in San Bernardino, California. I left that outside, so I made black belt. So when I get to the tournament, I'm going to fight black belt division, lightweight division. So what happens is I go there and I win my division, my lightweight division. I'm going to fight the other guy who won the heavyweight division for grand championship. And we fight in it, and I'm kicking everybody. It's so much fun. And I win the match. I win the tournament. There, it was the Mid-East Nationals. So it was a national tournament. I won the first nationals in the Midwest. But getting back to what we were talking about at the very start, how we're given choices. I could have just said, my career's over, I'm done. Now, what I want you to think about, getting back to the SUPERFOOT part of it, because my right knee was very, very beat up, very mangled, I had to be sideways. I had to turn sideways. So all of my techniques came from the side. Luckily, I'm left-handed. So my back fist was with the left hand. My ridge hand was with the left hand. My side kick, roundhouse kick, and hook kick was with my left leg. So that's what happened there. And when we get to the next workout, I'll tell you how I started working with those 3 kicks, how I started working with the 2 hand techniques, the back fist and the ridge hand, still staying sideways so I can protect my right knee. Understand, I had to change. I had to modify. I had to play with it.
That's amazing. I love that story, Bill. What I like what you said about the choices that we're given in life, and but you know, some of us and some people, we don't accept those choices and we quit. And unfortunately, you suffered a very traumatic experience with your knee. But you know, like I said, thank goodness that you had that, because we would have never had SUPERFOOT. And thank goodness, not just that, but that you stepped up, that you didn't quit, that you continued. And because of that, Bill, you've inspired so many people across the world. I mean, I couldn't even begin to count how many martial artists you've inspired. And I am one, and I am grateful for that, because you've always been a hero of mine, and like a lot of people. So thank goodness for that accident.
Exactly. People say, what would have happened if you hadn't had the accident? Well, I'd have been just like everybody else, worked 25,000 roundhouse kicks with the front leg or my left leg, then 25,000 kicks with the right leg. Maybe I would just be mediocre, as opposed to, because I had to modify, I had to change, I had to play with it. So I had to make it work for me. Just like all of us. We're all taught the same techniques, but it's what we do with those techniques. You're Taekwondo. So you took those techniques, make them competitive, make them useful, especially the punching techniques and the striking techniques. We make them work for us. And that's what the ball about it is. And that's Runway right now, telling everybody hello.
Awesome. All right. Well, good. Let's end it with that. Everybody, welcome again to the Bill SUPERFOOT Wallace YouTube channel. We're going to have a lot of different videos on here. Bill offering some training tips, some stories like you just heard right now, and commenting on some of his classic fights, so you can know exactly what he was thinking during those moments. Okay. So please subscribe to this channel so you are aware, and please visit us, tell all your friends. And Bill, you have any closing words?
Have fun. Remember, it's fun kicking people.